Well, I, in hindsight, should have aborted my drive to work. But I didn't want Mandis calling, hey, you coming back to work anytime soon? So there I was. My car shows dark red. You know, unlike meteorologists, they don't lie.
No.
So we're at a standstill starting at McEwen. So I know that Mac had a fun drive, too.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, we're 40 minutes in. I'm not even halfway there. I should abort. And I heard the Mandis voice go, you coming back to work anytime soon? So I thought, well, I'll press on. But you know what? I spited myself because I got here with 1 minute to spare, but not late that would make him, have to stay on the air. So here I am spiting myself.
It's still slow going through Brentwood.
Oh, it's awful.
It's very slow.
It's the worst. For some reason, it's worse than it used to be. I don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But I will tell you this. If I can get on the road like an hour and a half early, here in 10 minutes.
Exactly. You'll be hearing.
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
It's like we're all trying to go at the same time is the problem. But then, then I'm here with like an hour and a half to kill. Then what do I do? Then I'm hanging out in the newsroom with Brother Ken. Give me a hard time for taking off President's Day. As I told my son, I acknowledge the last two really good presidents, perfect presidents we had. Abraham Linguini, a nice Italian. At least that's how my dad taught it to me. I said, Dad, my favorite president is Abraham Lincoln. That's because you're Italian. What? Oh, his real name was Linguini. Abraham Linguini? Yeah. And I believed it for a long time.
That's awesome.
Oh,
I bet he was the first to have sauce on Sunday in the White House, right, Dad? Right, Dad? Yeah, son, he was. He was Abraham Linguini. No Gnocchis, Linguini. No, but Abraham Lincoln, George Washington. Why did we dilute that to just President's Day? Was anybody really celebrating, Grover Cleveland yesterday?
well, because then we'd have to have a President's Day for every president.
Well, was it just too much?
Might have been.
I guess when I was a kid, didn't we have Washington's birthday and Lincoln separate? And then they combined them and made it President's Day? I think that's what they did.
I do remember as a kid celebrating President Washington's birthday. I don't know if we. Well, I think we did Abraham Lincoln's too.
I think we did.
Because I remember we would all make.
But they
hats.
robbed days now. Like what days didn't we have that we have today? You know what? I have a video of all of our days off. Not a video, a picture. That's how I keep everything.
I've got a sheet of paper somewhere.
Isn't it fun? I just passed by. So I'm driving to work. My kid's favorite substitute teacher, Walter Egan, was on Yacht Rock.
Yeah.
So I took a picture. Magnet and steel, Walter Egan. I said, just thinking of you. Oh, thanks, Michael. How do I know Walter Egan? How did that happen? There's the scary picture of my grandmother who looks just like me. That's always unsettling. There's my cat. Pictures of Mom after she fell. Oh, is this going to be the oh, here it is.
I like the judgmental deacon.
Judgmental deacon. All right, so we have Martin Luther King Day. We didn't have that when we were a kid. But that's all right. I love Martin Luther King Jr., and I'm glad we acknowledge. I wish we could study the real him. President's Day was combined. Memorial Day we always had. Oh, that's the other one, Juneteenth. We didn't have Juneteenth.
No, we did not.
Mm-hmm.
Independence Day we always had. Labor Day we always had. Jerry Lewis. Timpani! Bah!
That's right. That was a big deal.
Well, and I was from a very young age. I would go the full 22 hours in full tuxedo.
Yes, you would.
And never give. Thanksgiving we always had. Day after Thanksgiving, I think we always had. Christmas we always had.
We had 2 weeks for Christmas.
Well, not work.
Oh, yeah, for work. Yeah, that's. I was stuck in school.
Oh, and you're thinking school, yeah. I'd like to do a 2-week vacation.
Wouldn't that be great?
Well, that's just like, it's almost like unemployed, and then you're happy to go back to work. Oh, I got a job already. Somewhere between, like, I think these professors have the sabbatical. That's the ticket.
That's what you need. Yes.
I'm going to go on 6 months sabbatical. Well, how do I get a sabbatical?
Well, I told you about one of the morning show partners there in Boise. He would take the Monday, he would take the Friday and Mondays off all summer long. So he had a 4-day weekend all summer long.
Well, my dad had the cushiest gig. See, this wouldn't happen for me if I sat down with Allison and said, Allison, here's the deal. I'm getting too old, but I am willing to work Tuesday through Friday. She'd say, thank you, Michael. Have a wonderful life. But I don't know how my dad got away with this. He did Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for 10 years.
Awesome.
Wow.
Every week was a 3-day weekend.
Wow.
Wouldn't that be awesome? See, I go down there and I'm like, I know you really want me to stay, but I'm only willing to stay if it's Tuesday. Oh, you're under the impression that I want you to stay. Bye, Michael. That's how it worked for me. But yeah, 3-day weekends are perfect. If we would go to that 4-day work week, we would all be happy. But Juneteenth, I knew there were two things that came up. So Martin Luther King Day and Juneteenth is why we probably, although it seems like we combined them before we added that one. Something must have, Mac, you should do the research on that. What day did we lose to make room for Juneteenth?
Okay.
Because I think when we were kids, and I don't remember federal buildings and schools are always the ones that are off. I'm given the option, but I go ahead and take them as I go. Otherwise, I forget about them. Yeah, I didn't go anywhere. I didn't have any money. I didn't have 2 nickels to rub together, but
Now you can stay up late and watch TV.
I did go and swing some golf clubs at Golf Galaxy and pulled a muscle, and now I'm miserable. It's all a part of aging. I think everybody has talked Ukraine to death, although I have like 3 or 4 just from listening to everybody just discuss. I mean, the sirens going off when there hasn't been a bomb in days, and there's no way. I mean, I think when we sent Biden, there were some people hoping he'd get blown up, but I don't think Putin was going to blow him up while he was there. So they were adding to the drama. That seems to have backfired. There's another piece I have that's even more funny. It kind of goes through an analysis of why the president must run again. Now, I have come to that conclusion on behalf of George Soros and on behalf of John Podesta, but for none of the reasons in this ridiculous Hill article. I mean, it is an absolute joke. And in one section of it, by the way, I could have Ken play, I could have you name that tune with it. Do you have the clip you just played of the president in the last newscast where he's just short of a coma?
Yes. You want to hear that
one
again?
of the reasons why they think Joe Biden must run for re-election, he's a charismatic incumbent.
There's a lot of challenges that we have to face, but I'm confident we can do it together and develop our partnership even further.
That's a charismatic incumbent.
That made me pause.
I like the military success portion of the Hill story we'll get to. Yes, he was so successful doing nothing that led to the invasion. How about settling and ending the war in Afghanistan by giving the Taliban complete control to return it to its pristine condition right before 9/11? No scandal was reason number 3. No scandal. The classified documents discovered has the potential to grow into a full-fledged... Discovery has the potential to grow into a full-fledged scandal, given that Republicans now control the House. Not that he did anything. Not that it was wrong to do it. So when everybody's invading Donald Trump's home, it's a full-fledged scandal. He tried to create a insurrection, a revolution. Now he's got secret documents in his home. That's a scandal. This guy can't run again. For Biden, no scandal, but the classified documents discovered have the potential to grow into a scandal. So it's wrong when Trump does it, not wrong when Biden does it. And they know nothing about it's just a joke of an article. And I guess it could be as simple as this is Joe Biden, or really John Podesta, trying to distract you from these presidential failures and make him look like some kind of Ike walking around at a wartime. The other questions that ought to concern you more is how close are we to a world war? And does making this investment in Ukraine make a world war less likely? If you do nothing, damned if you do, damned if you don't. You do nothing, they keep marching, then they get to a NATO country, and now you have world war. Assuming Putin would do it. Assuming Joe Biden would sit there eyeing through words. By the way, can I just interrupt this whole monologue to say one thing? Has anybody tried to watch The Bachelor recently?
No.
Okay, so it came on last night, and I have not seen all right, this is the honest to God truth. So you'll have to Google. Was it Trisha? Trish? I used to be able to do a good impersonation of the firefighter guy that she married. And they're still married. Trista, do Bachelorette or Bachelor Trista. Or was she the Bachelorette?
Well, these days she could be the Bachelor.
No, they're still married. They're the only ones that got married and stay married.
Yeah, Trista and Ryan Sutter.
Yeah. Ryan Sutter, if you can find like some audio of Ryan, he was gorgeous. I'm not. But he just played it so sensitive, and he got the smoking hot Trista. She was a cheerleader for the Chargers.
Played it sensitive.
Yeah, that's all you do is just, oh my God, he's so sensitive. In fact, if he was any more sensitive, he'd be Vince Gill. Yeah, Trista, do you have any audio of him? But anyway, I tried to watch The Bachelor last night, and this is the new generation after social media. And they're morons. They're twits. They can't even speak. Everything is, it didn't matter who was talking. There was like a like I feel like you see me. Like I feel seen. I don't even know what that means.
I feel seen.
What'd you think? You were on a date with Stevie Wonder? Of course you're seen. I feel like seen. And, my last relationship. Oh, you were in a relationship? Yeah. In my last relationship, he made me feel unattractive. And just seeing, like, the way you, like, looked at me, like made me feel attractive. So I'm like, I take all my cues, from likes. It was just... And I'm just like, oh, my God, you can't do reality TV anymore because reality, these people can't communicate. Like, if you go back, it would be a fun social dilemma experiment. Go watch The Bachelor from, like, 15 years ago.
That would be good.
First of all, why is it even still here? But go watch it 15 years ago and then watch it today, and they can't even talk. They don't even have game. They're lucky if they have a pulse. I think that's why they don't notice Joe Biden. I think Americans are dead, brain dead. They don't know that a guy's a walking zombie. Although it is strange when he like walks real fast, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's like they've juiced him up with something. He's like this old mannequin that came to life.
Yeah,
that's something that creeps me out. Did I just say that live on the radio? Because that's really unkind. I apologize. You know what I'm talking about? Remember when he came out real fast with his mask on?
Yeah, he was shuffling.
Yeah,
like he was almost jogging.
I think they body doubled us a couple times.
Well, there are some images out there that
don't look like him.
No, they do not.
I think they're pulling a Dave. I think Joe is still in the basement asleep on life support.
Okay, this is Ryan.
Now before you do it, just listen to. Now this is prior to the social dilemma. Ryan grew up fighting fires. Fires, saving people's lives. He didn't grow up on the internet projecting a life or watching others live. He ran into those burning buildings, not away from them. I love to say that line.
Watching others live.
This is Ryan, and he and sensitive his way into marriage with Krista. That's when I turned it off. I said, this is ridiculous.
Some advanced life support.
That's not how he normally talked.
Maybe Trista got to him.
How long ago is this? This is like long
It's
after.
10 years ago. So, yeah, well, I mean, this...
Oh, yeah, he's confident now. Yeah. He married Trista. Now all of a sudden he's growing a pair. Listen to him.
He might even have a belly.
No excuse for not knowing CPR.
He's got a dad gut.
I practice on... No, he doesn't, does he?
Oh, they don't have any kids.
No, they had kids.
I was just making fun. I was just thinking he's probably got a dad gut.
No, I'll bet you he's still good looking, isn't he?
He looks pretty good.
Yeah,
not gonna lie.
he's ridiculous.
Yeah, he looks great.
Yeah, I mean, him and Trista like go for like hikes up mountains.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, that's...
Yeah, they're both in shape.
Andrew and I go to bed right after Wheel of Fortune. There's a difference. But no, if you could like find clips from him on the show, like watch the difference in how he talked before he got her.
Oh,
I should try that. I don't. God forbid, I don't ever want to be single.
Playing the sensitive card.
But just like go to like where like and just talk like this all night. Just see. But I think you got to be good looking to pull that off, right?
Well, yeah. I mean,
he's gorgeous and he's not cocky. He's like real sensitive. All he cares about is what I'm saying. Yeah, sure he does.
Exactly.
Okay, here he is on The Bachelor.
All right, listen. Yeah. I'd have blown you away. I shot you right in the chest.
And then now they're talking with the dad.
Yes. Here he is. It's yeah. And then I decided to just save lives.
This is a real
sickening.
thing.
He's sickening. Oh, yes. That was the last time. Now, my point of the whole segment, just to show you how he went ADD, that's the last time I watched it. So what year was that?
I think that was like 03.
03. No, that sounds about right. 20 years ago.
Right when it started, pretty much.
Yeah. Wow. So, and now 20 years later is the social dilemma generation. You ought to find a clip from last night's, I don't know if it's, I think it's Bachelor. They're in London. And these people can't communicate. They're like forever reaching for an emoji that isn't there. Is this now, by the way? Oh, so that was a long way to go for that point. All right, so are we on a trajectory to world war? That's what everybody deep down is concerned about. We're going to talk to Lieutenant Colonel James Carafano.
Yes.
Coming up next half hour for you. I do have the top reasons, according to The Hill. Who bought The Hill and who bought Drudge and ruined both? Seriously, someone come clean. Who bought them? The Hill used to be, not left, not right.
Right down the middle.
Pretty decent, logical, if not wise analysis. And now it's just like, what is this? This is like George Soros' screenplay. But we'll go over why they think Joe Biden must run again. And if it was based on truth, and I think he is going to run again, but it'd be one thing. But these are just blatant lies. And then we're going to look at the top 10 Democratic and Republican candidates heading into the midterm election. There is something in our teachable moment I want to look at, which is every generation has different lingo. Every generation goes through ebbs and flows of values and beliefs and trends. The difference between this woke generation is they're erasing everything before it. So there'll be no record of anything other than the way they looked at the world, and we see that with the way they're editing books. It is our alarming teachable moment. And I think the most interesting conversation we're going to have today is Donald Trump stepping up the attacks on DeSantis. And these are looking ridiculous. As DeSantis is out leading and doing, Donald Trump isn't reminding you of what he led and did. He's attacking every day DeSantis, and DeSantis isn't responding. So you end up with headlines like this. DeSantis keeps racking up wins, while Trump, his opponent, keeps just taking swipes. I would hope Donald Trump would realize that's not going to work. It's not working, and you've done far too much to play that game. Why wouldn't you talk about the most credible position you can take? I was the president of the United States. I did make America great again. Elect me and I'll make it great again. Instead, he's tweeting and attacking while DeSantis is leading and solving. Probably not a great strategy. That and more between now and noon. Miss Lydia, miss a lot. And, Mac and I will miss you. So will Ken. All right, news is next. 9:26. I'm Michael DelGiorno for Jeff Eddy's Efficient Heating and Cooling of Tennessee. Jeff and his team are different. First of all, they're the best, and they're the most affordable. But I like the wisdom. Just trying to figure out whether you want conventional or geothermal, repair one more time, or cut your losses and replace. You can trust you're getting the expert answers that are best for you. And then they do residential, light commercial, all brands, Elite Pro partner with Rheem, Diamond contractor with a Mitsubishi, A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau. You know whether you're repairing or replacing or doing maintenance, you're getting the best. Affordable, can't exceed $125 a home for maintenance. You should do your air conditioners in the spring, heaters in the fall. I have 3 units. You may have more. You may have less. It can be less, but it cannot exceed $125. You get that back in energy efficiency, but you save hundreds on repair, thousands on early replacement. You take care of these things, and they work for a long time. So whether it's maintenance, repair, or replacement, trust the best and the most affordable. Jeff Eddy's Efficient Heating and Cooling of Tennessee. 784-4424, 784-4424, or online at efficienthvac.net.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, and we've got crashes and construction in the way. Right now, a crash, right shoulder blocked, I-40 eastbound right before Charlotte Avenue. And then 2 center lanes blocked, 24 westbound after Bell Road. That's in Rural Hill. And in Brentwood, you've got a rolling roadblock, some pothole patching. That's got 65 northbound, slow going through Brentwood. President Biden is in Warsaw, Poland, marking the 1-year anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine and reaffirming the U.S. commitment to Ukraine.
A year later, I would argue NATO is stronger than it's ever been.
Russia's president announcing a step back from a nuclear proliferation treaty and blaming the West for the war. And the Biden administration announcing new steps to hold the rail industry accountable after that toxic train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg spoke on ABC News this morning.
I am planning to go, and our folks were on the ground from the first hours. I do want to stress that the NTSB needs to be able to do its work independently. But when I go, the focus is going to be on action.
The derailment happened 18 days ago. There have been complaints from residents of constant headaches and eye irritation. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
All right, I don't want to call attention to anything, but I think you were lip syncing. I want you to do it live next time for me.
Okay, I'll just do it live. I'll do it live every time if you want.
I mean, that was very smooth. Before I get to the currents, and I am so moved, I almost don't want to. I have the details. So we lost... Washington and Lincoln's birthday was combined in the 80s. See, because I didn't notice it was after school.
Ah, okay.
So Washington and Lincoln's birthdays were separate when we were in school, but then once we joined the workforce, sometime in the 80s, Washington and Lincoln's birthdays were combined to add MLK Day. Juneteenth was just arbitrarily created by Biden, and now civil servants get it, but not federal contractors. Of course, our company, we like to pride ourselves on being as woke as possible, so we get it. So apparently that's not an official holiday yet, even though our company recognizes it. I was reading our company's days. I don't think I missed any there's none that our company doesn't acknowledge. Others do, right? Like, when did we lose Arbor Day?
Was that a federal holiday?
Wasn't it?
I don't recall that. I'd take it, though.
What does it say? I could have swore we
Not
had
a national holiday. Instead, schools nationwide celebrate this day.
Yeah, we would plant a tree.
Yeah, environment-related activities, namely tree planting.
Oh, okay. So that's not a day off either. Yeah, that's the other thing about holidays. All we care about is the day off. You can't,
Yep.
It's not a holiday if I have to work.
Yeah.
And by the way, quite frankly, that's extra work to plant a tree. Currently in Franklin, we have sunny skies at 57 degrees. Temperature at Mount Juliet, sunny at 57 degrees. Down in the borough, the linoleum has warmed it up 1 extra degree. We have sunny skies, 58 degrees. And downtown on Music Row, the statues are naked, the skies are fair, the show is fair. 59 feels like 58 at WTM. Here's my weather guy. Dow's down 448, Nasdaq's down 195, S&P's down 53, and everybody said, Shake Shujo. At 9:36, I'm Michael DelGiorno for Loan Pronto. If you think mortgage rates are still super high, don't just think again. Call my friends at Loan Pronto and see how they plummeted to 5-month lows. And they can help you lock in that rate. It may be time for you to refinance. Maybe you were one of those that got stuck in the 6s, maybe even the low 7s a year ago. Get out of that. APRs are in the 4s now. Maybe it's time to just get back to house hunting. Don't forget, if you're refinancing, your home has probably gained a lot of value. Tap into that equity. Get a check. Pay down any debt that's attached to a variable interest rate. You want to free up cash flow to afford inflation, and you want to get rid of all debt, or at least debt attached to variable rates as you head into recession, and your home is your ticket to do it. We can get it all done. Wipe out those credit card debts, close in 14 days, cut your overall expenses, lock in your rate today, and call Loan Pronto. 499-5780. That's 499-5780. Call 499-5780 or learn more online at loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender and MLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval. Information fueled, opinion driven. That's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm Michael DelGiorno at 9:41, 19 minutes before 10 o'clock. It is our really privilege and honor to have Lieutenant Colonel James Carafano join us once a week. And here we are all trying to understand exactly what was going on with Joe Biden in the Ukraine. I mean, clearly under heavy duress as he was touring and expressing his continued support for the war in Ukraine. Sirens going off, missiles. It was really something watching him serpentine through the streets of Ukraine. Jim, if this was designed to make all of us forget about Afghanistan, forget about shooting balloons, this is pretty expensive, dramatic theater to try to do so. What is the president doing in Ukraine and Poland today?
Yeah, well, it's just like, showing up 2 years at the border after you made a complete mess of the border. Here's the deal. If the president really cared about Ukraine and Ukrainians, he would have gone to Ukraine at the height of the crisis when it would have really mattered. But literally waiting until the conquest of Ukraine's impossible, and calling Putin first just to make sure nobody shoots at him before he goes, this is laughable. It's not. I mean, it's not laughable.
No, it's tragic, really. I mean, at some point, aren't you concerned what we're doing to the legitimacy of the presidency with all this theater and nonsense?
Well, I think everybody gets the joke, right? They all get the joke of who Biden really is, right? He threw Afghanistan under the bus, and then to say, we were with the Ukrainians for as long as it takes. There are people living in Afghan hell who I'm sure just gobsmacked by that statement. But we all get who he is. First of all, this brave Biden, right? When the war started, what was the first thing he did? He wanted the president of Ukraine to run away. So let's not pretend that somehow this is the courageous leader of the free West. But here's the deal. There's only one leader in the world more pathetic and contemptible and that's Vladimir Putin, who has run his military into the ground in a disastrous campaign. And as a result of this, of his incompetence and the brave Ukrainian, and look, I'd be the first to say, American military support, there's a future of Europe that is without China, without Russia, as a friend of the United States, and carrying their own weight, carrying their fair share of the burden. And, we have a number of European governments now popping up in Northern and Central and Southern Europe that are center-right conservative governments that are more popular than the populace, that give the middle finger to Brussels, and who are anti-Russian, anti-Chinese, pro-American, pro-NATO, really believe in burden sharing. Some of them have increased their defense spending to a higher level of percentage of GDP than the United States, and are great partners for the United States. They are pro-life, they are pro-family, they are pro-parents running the education of their children. They think the whole climate thing is a scam, and they want to import oil and gas as fast as they can. These people, as far as I'm concerned, are better partners for America than most Californians. And they look past Joe Biden to and you know me, I'm not political. I am not a partisan dude at all. I don't belong to a political party. I don't have a dog in this fight. But they're looking past Joe Biden to the next conservative president of the United States, who will be a partner for them, and they will be an equal partner for us.
I want to break down a couple, and I mean these as questions. I'm not implying I have the answers. It would be insulting to have an expert like you on and not ask a true question. But why does it seem like the left always plays the Russian card? They're either obsessed with Russia. Russia is their ultimate threat to democracy, and yet totally blind and a free pass for all things China, all things North Korea, all things are Iran. Whereas the right, I think you would say the right worries more maybe about China, but I think it's all of the above. I mean, they're looking at the holy war or the terrorist war, whatever we're woke calling it today, primarily being Iran, but the Iran, Russian, China, North Korea, the entire axis. But why does it seem like the left is only focused on Russia? Can you help me understand that?
But look, I mean, I don't think they're pro-Russian or anything or pro-China. They look for the easiest, laziest path forward. And you have to remember, the thing about being these guys is the most horrible thing that could happen to them is if they didn't get an invitation to dinner or the cocktail parties or a spot at the World Economic Forum or a speaking event at the Munich Security Council. And so they can only be comfortable where everybody else, kind of hugs them. And so because European governments are, pushing back against Russia. They are. Remember, Joe Biden, forget about being tough on Russia. Joe Biden came into office wanting to do nothing about Russia, wanting to gift them the Nord Stream pipeline. So let's not pretend that somehow these guys came into office and say, oh, Russia's the big enemy here. They came into office because, they came into office wanting to do nothing. And because everybody else stood, well, they're like, oh, well, we have to be part of the party. That's all there is to this. It's just like the Russian dossier. I mean, they don't care. I mean, Barack Obama wanted to be Putin's friend. He bragged about wait till after the elections we'll do things together. But essentially the Russian dossier throws the Russians under the bus. They didn't care about that. Right. It's whatever gets and maintains power. It's the ultimate definition of ethics is it's ethical if it benefits me. That's the mantra of this administration.
Well, it's tragic that foreign policy has become political. James Carafano is joining us from the Heritage Foundation, one of the largest think tanks in the world, and he presides over all the great military and foreign policy minds there. I think if everybody's listening right now, James, the one thing that they're most concerned about is a trajectory towards world war. One model that is presented is it's a catch-22. If you do nothing, surely Russia would finish in the Ukraine and move on to Poland or any other NATO country, and then you're at world war. If you continue this blatant proxy war much further in terms of money and armament, that's going to lead to eventually world war.
Sure.
Either way, it's headed to world war. Your thoughts?
Well, I completely reject the notion of a proxy war. A proxy war is when you pay somebody to attack somebody else. When you're assisting a country in its legitimate pursuit of self-defense, that's not a proxy war. If that's a proxy war, then Lend-Lease to the British, before the U.S. entered World War II is a proxy war, and I don't think it was.
But don't you agree that it's because we have an entire generation that really hasn't lived Cold War? They don't know how Cold War operates.
Exactly. I think that's exactly right. But, in terms of the escalation thing, my only argument is this: is Vladimir Putin cannot defeat Ukraine. This is a little country that entered this war barely armed. He cannot defeat them. And this notion that somehow the solution for him is to escalate the conflict beyond Ukraine just kind of strikes me as, really? I mean, look, I can't speak for Vladimir Putin. He's going to do what he wants to do. But to me, the most suicidal thing he could do is when you're losing one war,
start another.
To start another one.
Unless you got help. That's a whole other topic.
Yeah, let's be honest. I mean, when Hitler attacked Russia, everything was going his way. I mean, he had pretty much, cornered the British and conquered all of Europe. And let's be honest, if it wasn't for the winter coming in, he'd have been in Moscow, for God's sakes. So nobody who's losing picks another fight with maybe Putin will be the first, but normally, look at it this way: it's like you're the bully, and you go into the schoolyard and you pick up on a kid, and it turns out it's like the movie The Bodyguard, and some guy comes over and starts beating the hell out of you. Do you then say, okay, let me pick another fight? Well, I you could do that, but it just doesn't make sense to me.
Unless that, they had already picked sides and they know North Korea's behind them, they know China's behind them, they know Iran's behind them, and they've been planning this for some time. But there's no evidence of that right now.
Yeah, but the thing is, the Chinese will do anything they can to help the Russians that the Chinese can't be held accountable for. China has never gone out of its way, put its neck out for anybody other than China. So that one I'm kind of a little
including North Korea, right?
Right, exactly,
yeah.
Exactly. And of course, the North Koreans, they can't really help the Russians out.
So it doesn't.
They can hang on.
But let me just repeat for everybody, because I know they're very concerned. All right, so yours, and this is years of going to West Point, teaching at West Point, advising presidents. Your take is, first of all, it's a misjudgment to call this a proxy war. It's a Cold War. Putin gets it. A lot of people who are over 40 get the rules of engagement of a Cold War. So you're heading in error the minute you buy the load of potatoes that this is a proxy war. Secondly, it's not going well for him. So why is the question framed, if you don't stop him in Ukraine, he'll go on to Poland? He can't even get through Ukraine. I I guess I'm exegeting from all this. You don't think a world war is brewing?
That's right, and it works both ways. We constantly criticize Biden for playing politics with foreign policy, but let's be honest, it happens on our side too. I mean, there are a lot of people who are against supporting Ukraine just because Biden's our president. Well, I think we have to parse that. I mean, Biden's a terrible president, and he's a terrible leader. I forget people they're saying, well, look, he went to Ukraine. He went to Ukraine a year into the war after it was very clear that Ukraine's not going to lose.
Right.
And he called Putin up to make sure the way was clear before he went. This is not an act of courage.
No, it's a joke. Remember, and now they're pulling out of their arms agreement. So.
I mean, this is a president who braved Biden, who on the first day of the war, his act of bravery was to call Putin up. I mean, to call up the president of Ukraine and say, "Here, let me help you run away." Come on.
No, he was literally offering him asylum. All right, so let me ask you this: World War I, Hitler. World War II, Hitler. Hitler's vision. I mean, you taught this at West Point. How did we end up in World War? Because Hitler wanted to control the world. His plan was to invade everywhere. Russia, and Putin in particular, is just trying to put back the Russian Empire map. I don't even believe the Soviet Union, just the Russian Empire map. That alone would suggest certain places he would go and wouldn't go. That wouldn't necessarily equal World War.
Right. That's correct. I would also say, though, the part of the Putin problem is, what does Putin want? He wants a Europe that is disorganized, destabilized, divided, distracted.
And dependent on him a little bit.
Right, and see NATO fall apart and the U.S. leave. Who else wants that? China. Putin wants it for Putin's purposes, but China wants that because China does have a global vision, and it does include marginalizing the United States.
So to quote the great Lee Corso from ESPN football pregame on Saturday, not so fast on the World War front. Yeah, pretty ridiculous on the political theater front. That's your summary of Biden goes to Ukraine. James Carafano, you can read his great work at the Heritage Foundation at heritage.org. I love you, my brother. Have a great week. We'll talk next Tuesday.
That was great. Thanks for having me.
Love you. Bye.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've been teaching investing on Nashville airwaves for over 20 years with the Investor Coaching Show. And in that time, I taught a lot about how markets work and how we invest money and academic principles of investing money. But I've also talked an awful lot about how to avoid the mistakes that people often make with their money. Think about it. A lot of people sold out of the market at the worst time when COVID struck, or when TARP happened, the Troubled Asset Relief Program, or gold, they invested in that at the worst time. Bailing out of the market because they were worried about Y2K or 9/11 or jumping into energy stocks or jumping into cryptocurrency. One of the things that I like to do is educate investors, because I believe that the more educated you are, the more confident you are, and the more confident you are, the more successful you can be as an investor. Now, I not only do that on our radio show, but we do that in our offices around the Nashville region, 10 offices. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
Ten o'clock on the dot this Tuesday morning. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. We've got 2 summer-like days ahead, but rain's going to be mixed in. We'll tell you about it during the full forecast in 2 minutes. Got a crash in the way, and it is involving injuries. 65 southbound right before 40 west. And then in Rutherford County, you got a crash, right shoulder block, 24 eastbound right after the Almaville Road exit. President Biden marking 1 year since Russia invaded Ukraine, telling Polish President Duda in Warsaw today efforts against Russia will be successful as long as NATO remains united.
I think we're if we keep our head and we are focused, I think we're in a better position than we've ever been.
Meanwhile, President Vladimir Putin remains defiant, blaming the West for the war in his version of the State of the Union he gave to Russia this morning.
Vladimir Putin said Russia is suspending its participation in the New START treaty, the last major nuclear arms agreement between Russia and the US. Putin said it was in response to the clash around Ukraine. He emphasized Russia was not definitively leaving the treaty yet, but was suspending it. The treaty limits the size of Russia and the US's nuclear arsenals. Patrick Reevell, ABC News, Kyiv.
Back here at home, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg announcing steps the Biden administration wants to take against the rail industry for the toxic train derailment in Palestine, Ohio.
Right now, even for the most egregious kind of safety violation, like ones involving hazardous materials that result in fatalities, Congress has passed a statute that caps our ability to fine at about $250,000. And that might sound like a lot of money for somebody going through daily life, but to a multi-billion-dollar company like Norfolk Southern, it is dust.
Buttigieg says he's planning to go to the site when the time is right. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
You know what I love about Pete? He's a professional BSer. like that clip you played last hour. You know, everybody's like, you're the Secretary of Transportation. There's been a major derailment. There's toxicity in the air. Why aren't you there? I will go when the timing is.
Yeah.
So full of,
yeah.
Well, you know what? I was watching a great documentary on Showtime on Hitsville, the history of Motown. And real quickly, you begin to realize that Berry Gordy was a commonsensical, street smart genius. So he's working on the assembly line of car manufacturing, and he applies the very concept of the assembly line to producing music. Literally, you go to this station to learn how to dance and move and behave on talk shows. You go to this station where the writers give you the song. You go to this station to go where the musicians do the arrangement. You go to this station. Cool. I mean, it was just really fascinating.
Yeah.
Now, I have a tie. There's a reason why Mom and Dad got to meet Diana Ross and so many of the great artists, and that was Barney Ailes. So Barney Ailes was, and by the way, this is the ultimate point I'm going to get to, is that I think Motown did more for racial healing and unity than Barack Obama ever dreamt of doing, let alone what we think we're doing today through wokeness. They were producing black artists and black music and exposing it to white people. They weren't trying to produce just, in fact, a lot of people criticized they weren't black enough because they were producing great music with black artists, but they're the ones that took the ropes down in the South on concert tours. And blacks and whites started going to concerts together and dancing together and getting along together. It's really it's a brilliant documentary on so many. It's kind of like, remember the documentary I watched on Muhammad Ali? And you can watch a documentary on Muhammad Ali or just watch America in the background. And the America in the background was far more interesting than the actual life of Muhammad Ali. That's how this was. There were so many layers to it. But there was one thing, and by the way, they did feature my dad's friend Barney Ailes throughout. There's a great story. Barney takes him to dinner. And, Berry Gordy, of course, is black. Barney Ailes is white. And the restaurant manager comes up and goes, "I'm sorry, sir, but we don't serve coloreds." And Barney immediately turns to the guy and goes, "Well, that's good for you. That's okay, because I don't eat black people. But my friend here is going to be eating dinner with me." And that was it. They were afraid of Barney, so they served him. But there was one thing in what they called the quality control. And this is where they picked what songs would be released. And I mean, epic hits, iconic hits. And you're hearing, a couple of people going, "I don't think it's a hit. I don't think it's a hit." And they're all voting. It was all very democratic. But it's because Berry Gordy had a theory. And if you go back and you listen to a lot of the great Motown music, boom, 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 "I know you want to leave me." He believed you had 5 seconds, 5 notes to make a first impression. He believed a hit song was established in the first 5 seconds. I'm just watching this in the documentary. And when you go back and you listen to the beginning of all the great Motown songs, they all have a real signature sound in the first 5 seconds. So now I'm at work today, and I look down, study. You know if you like a song in 5 seconds. How brilliant is Berry Gordy that he was doing this in 1959, 1960? A New York University study found that it takes you less than 5 seconds to decide if you like a song. I'll do this with Nick all the time. I'll play him older music, and it's a little shocking. You would have thought different songs would translate to his generation, and it's not. It's just what you think it would be. I mean, he'll listen to a really great Boston song. He'll listen to a really great Led Zeppelin song. He'll listen to a great Elvis song. But he'll reject kind of some of the stuff that's kind of dated feeling. But the timeless stuff translates. That's why it's timeless. And then he'll do the same with me with new music, and that's how I ended up discovering Coldplay, was through my son.
Yes.
And fell in love with him. Humans tend to respond to the vibe of the track instead of notes. The 650 participants in studies listened to 250 songs in full and song excerpts lasting 5, 10, and 15 seconds. Over the course of any given song, the acoustic properties change dramatically, but that doesn't seem to matter much to the listeners, according to the head researcher. These findings could help us understand how songs evoke emotions. And the strongest emotions and the strongest vibe, it only takes us about 5 seconds to decide if we like a song. Translation, all you out there listening in Music City, USA, make sure that intro counts, because those first 5 seconds only mean everything, according to research and according to Berry Gordy, who had a pretty good record of success at Motown for many, many generations. It's 10:08. I was reading the beard lips, and I heard, she's got legs, and she knows how to use them.
Oh.
Like ZZ Top in there. Lip syncing to your own weather. Brentwood, Puffy Muffin, sunny and 59. To the north in Hendersonville, sunny and 60. Downtown on Music Row, sunny 61, feels like 60 at WT. On the market, very Joe Bidenized. The Dow's down 500 at 33,326. NASDAQ's down 218 at 11,568. And the S&P's down 61 at 4,017. The market is dramatically down at 1012. Well, if you're frustrated with what I call sick care, in general, they call health care, but you're only going when there's something wrong, and you're getting no relief and no answers. That's sick care that's failing you. Dr. Jay Hitson and her team at Blue Umbrella Medical Center of Middle Tennessee are very different. You're going to notice the state-of-the-art lab testing because we're not going to stop till we get you real answers. We think that's what you deserve, and that's actually what you came for. We're going to go beyond the answers to using very advanced diagnostic equipment to get to the root cause of the problem, and then we're going to treat the root cause with today's cutting-edge regenerative treatments, and you're going to get relief and lasting relief. Take neuropathy, for example, acute, chronic, and crippling. We're going to treat that root cause with the cutting-edge regenerative treatments, and we're going to stimulate, reactivate, and regenerate the actual damaged tissue and nerve endings. That brings immediate and long-term relief. So if you or someone you love or care for is suffering from neuropathy, it's covered by insurance, and it begins with a free consultation. What are you waiting for? Actual health care with real results. Call Blue Umbrella Medical Center of Middle Tennessee today, 610-6937, 610-6937, or online at blueumbrellamedical.com. Well, it's one of those days where I'd rather talk about Motown and Berry Gordy than I would some of this Joe Biden stuff, although we still have the live feed on Joe. Yeah, see, I think they're trying to make their way back to Air Force One. Well, he's under heavy fire. Wow, what a brave president. I almost got him. Joe got an adrenaline rush and dodged the border. So obviously things are still continuing now into the borders of Poland with the president. But I did like this particular story, and it's twofold. One, what happened to the Hill? It used to be, Drudge was no big deal. It was just kind of one place to go where you could see all the stories of the day. Now, once you buy into that kind of a filter and you build a trust in that filter, and then somebody, I guess, pays cash for it and changes it, it feels like betrayal. But they certainly have a right, and the solution's simple. You just don't go there anymore. In fact, the only time I go to Drudge now is when when they've got a narrative in full swing. Like, I don't even know what today's is. I can only imagine. I just go to almost make fun of it. Or just, it's almost like a punchline to whatever ridiculous narrative they're trying to sell that day. 1 year mark of invasion looms large. Insight extraordinary. Top secret visit. Vlad's landmark speech suffers mysterious leaks plant. It's just it's all narrative. It's whatever they're trying to sell that day. And it's a shame. I used to go to Drudge because it was a great place to go and see a lot of great stories in one place, Now it's completely unuseful. It's been co-opted. It's been bought. The same is happening at the Hill. There was a time you could go to the Hill and get a non-left, non-right, just analytical understanding of what's happening in Washington, and someone's bought it right out from under us. And so you get ridiculous stories like this one. So this is actually an op-ed piece, but data says Democrats need Biden to run for a second term. Now, it's funny because last week we kind of discovered or kind of concluded after doing several stories, he may be their best bet. As ridiculous as that sounds, as bad as that is for America, I am actually convinced, not for any of the reasons in this Hill op-ed piece, that he is their best bet. But let's do the op-ed piece. Democrats need Biden to run for a second term. Politics aside, has somebody convinced themselves that presidential elections aren't political? Are we so enamored, in love, and in worship of these presidential candidates we forgot that's politics at its purest? Okay, politics aside, if you study the data trends, the 13 keys to the White House created by analyst and historian Alan Lichtman, which have demonstrated an uncanny knack for calling U.S. presidential elections, there have been a few hiccups. It called Al Gore. Oh, but we all know that Al really won it, right? Is what the story is implying. Winning the popular vote. It correctly called Donald Trump over Hillary Clinton, with Trump winning the Electoral College and Clinton winning the popular vote. The 13 keys are essentially a checklist of true or false statements. I notice how it doesn't tell you what it would have predicted between Biden and Trump. 13 keys are essential to a checklist of true and false statements. For President Biden to be reelected, at most five of 13 keys can be false. Although we stand just under 21 months from the election, where do these keys stand? Are there any choices that either party can make to enhance their chances of winning the White House? Four keys already appear to be false. They include midterm gains in the House. Republicans narrowly won control of the House. No scandal. I love this. This cracked me up. The classified documents discovered has the potential to grow into a full-fledged scandal. Given that Republicans now control the House, only because they control the House is it now a scandal. When the Democrats controlled the House, it was definitely a scandal when they raided Mar-a-Lago. But nobody ever said that. It's only because the Democrats are in control. Now this goofball's phrasing it because the Republicans are in control. It could evolve into a scandal. Military success, nothing is on the horizon, though the war in Ukraine or China balloons can quickly flip this key. Quickly flip? And by the way, you're leaving out a border war that we're losing, thanks to this president, how he handled Putin on the border of Ukraine, and how he gave Afghanistan back to Taliban control and then botched the exit. This could flip quickly. Charismatic incumbent. Biden has many good qualities, but charisma is not one of them. There are 7 keys that are on track to being true. No challenger to Biden during the primaries. No third party. Strong long-term economy. Long-term economy? You really think so? I think it'll be going to hell in a handbasket right about election time. No social unrest. Really? No foreign military failure? Really? Uncharismatic challenger? DeSantis? Trump? Uncharismatic? We'll continue this bold prediction that Biden, for all the wrong reasons, is the best choice for the Democrats, as bought and paid for by whoever really owns the Hill now. It's 10:21. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
got a crash downtown, and it's injury-related. Broadway at Rosa Parks Boulevard. And then on the south side, I-40 westbound at Hermitage Avenue, a crash is blocking the right shoulder. President Biden getting ready to speak to the Polish in Warsaw, Poland, after he's already met with Poland's president. We'll play you some cuts of that, talking about how NATO needs to stay together in order to be successful against Russia. Well, Vladimir Putin is not backing down. He has decided to suspend a nuclear treaty with the United States. We'll tell you about these stories and more at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
So we're just looking for 4 minutes at this Hill opinion piece, which is looking at the 13 keys to the White House. This was an Alan Lichtman created true-false 13 key positions or statements, and you're allowed to only have 5 falses. If you have more than 5 falses, you're not likely to win. And it's been somewhat accurate with the exception of Al Gore. It did predict Donald Trump winning the first time. Nothing in the story to tell you about the second time, which I'm sure it picked Trump as well. And so it's looking at what it would acknowledge being 5 or 4 falses already. Midterm gains didn't happen. Republicans narrowly had gains. No scandal yet, although I think the perception is reality, is this president has scandals that have been ignored by a biased mainstream media and a corrupt Justice Department, an inability to even look at the Hunter Biden laptops. They denied it. They're just now getting around to saying, oh, yeah, it existed. I think Joe Biden is perceived up to his chest in scandal. I don't think that's a false. Military success, nothing on the horizon. Charismatic incumbent, he's clearly not. Although later, as a true uncharismatic challenger. Now, I won't even get into and I don't even know that Ted Cruz is going to run, but the Nikki Haley's and I would think that the top 2 candidates, Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump, would be considered, I wouldn't call them uncharismatic by any stretch. And compared to Joe Biden, quite charismatic. So I disagree with that. True. No foreign military failure. I disagree with that. I thought giving Afghanistan to the Taliban, the exit in Afghanistan was a disaster. The lead up to Ukraine was a disaster, and shooting down balloons is a disaster. Nobody takes this president's foreign policy seriously. What a ridiculous true statement to have listed. No social unrest. Every time we turn around, there's social unrest. I mean, nothing like George Floyd, but that could happen any second. Major policy change. The bipartisan infrastructure. I mean, these are jokes. Strong long-term economy. I don't know how you can make that case. There's nobody that thinks this looks good short or long-term, unless suddenly we have found a way to debt our way out of a debt problem, spend our way out of a spending problem. Somehow you can disconnect government out-of-control spending with the creation of inflation, and then the Fed's job to cut off spending to address inflation, which is higher interest rates and recession. I don't think anybody sees strong long-term economy. They do address the third party, and that presumes that Donald Trump would do such a thing if his party doesn't give him the nomination, and it would go to somebody like DeSantis. And I don't know that we have that answer yet. But obviously Joe Biden would need a third party to help him greatly. No challenger to Biden during the primaries. I think, there's at least a year. Again, this goes back to what we always talk about. Is Joe Biden Jimmy Carter, or is Joe Biden Lyndon Baines Johnson? See, I think he's LBJ. I don't think he can run for re-election because he can't win re-election. But obviously, if everybody just allows him, now in the case of LBJ, he couldn't win because Bobby Kennedy was running and no one could anticipate him being killed. That's why LBJ bowed out. Now, how much longer can people like Gavin Newsom or others look at these polls and the dissatisfaction with the president and believe we're heading in the wrong direction and not get in. If no one gets in, and no one has, that's certainly a truth. And if you believe in the 13 factors, it's a predictor. I do think he's their best choice moving forward. Not for any of these reasons, but you got a good year where people could still jump in. Now, here's the unmistakable truth. Biden hasn't announced he's running yet. A lot of people don't want him to run still. But nobody else has announced they are running. So based on that, it is true, and it is certainly one of 13 big keys. But I think the other 12 are on shaky ground. Joe Biden on paper looks to have anywhere from 8 to 11 easy falses if somebody had the courage to see things realistically, which won't be the Hill because, to Red's credit, no wonder they seem so different. They were bought in 2021 for $130 million by Nexstar. That may be why the Hill has changed so much. But this op-ed piece, it's fascinating to look at those 13 keys, but these aren't legitimate looks at them. And it would look like on paper it would project Joe Biden to lose, depending on who he runs against and depending on whether or not the Hill wants to be honest about who's charismatic and who is not. 1032 at Super Talk 99.7 WTM. When we come back, changing history. It's one thing to go through a cycle of wokeness. It's one thing to erase everything that ever happened before it so that moving forward, there is no true North Star of history. That's exactly what's happening, and I'll explain next.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 2 minutes. President Biden is in Poland marking the first anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, a day after saying Ukraine has the support of his administration for, quote, as long as it takes.
The truth of the matter is the United States needs Poland and NATO as much as NATO needs the United States.
Russian leader Vladimir Putin, meanwhile, showing no signs of backing down, addressing his nation today to announce Russia is suspending participation in the New START treaty to limit the number of nuclear weapons in the U.S. and Russian stockpile. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg says the Biden administration is taking steps to hold the rail industry accountable for the toxic train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio.
Things that we're doing at the Department of Transportation to raise the bar, things that we need help from Congress to do in order to hold rail companies accountable, and things that this industry needs to do differently.
Norfolk Southern Railroad writing checks to affected residents and has set up a $1 million fund to help the community rebuild. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Currently at 10:36, we have sunshine in Middle Tennessee. Franklin, you're now 64 degrees, 63 in Mount Juliet, 62 in the Borough. Downtown on Music Row, the statues are naked, the skies are sunny at 62 degrees. It feels like 62 on February 21st. Not too shabby. The market is shabby. The Dow's down 524, NASDAQ is down 227, and the S&P is down 63. Unfortunately, all three are in the red. The market is dramatically down. I'm Michael DelGiorno. If you want to look and feel better about yourself, may I recommend PAI Medical. We grow hair in Brentwood. We have the finest surgeons, latest technology and results. We have surgical and non-surgical solutions for hair thinning and hair loss and hair restoration. We've been the go-to company. That shouldn't surprise you because we're an epicenter of entertainment. But you don't have to have a star's wealth to go where the stars go. And We Grow Hair, we're the only company in the entire state of Tennessee that has PAI's multi-unit hair grafting procedure. It's a trademark procedure. It gives you more hair in one procedure, which saves you time and money, and no one else has it. Backed by the only company that I trust for my thinning hair. Call 376-6010 and set up your free consultation today. Find out if surgical or non-surgical is best for you. Sit down with the experts. It's both fascinating, informative, but best of all, absolutely free and no obligation. You can see a lot of before and after shots at WeGrowHair.com. Natural results from a company you can trust, PAI Medical. Make this the year you get your hair back. Set up your consultation today. 376-6010, 376-6010. That's 376-6010. Online at WeGrowHair.com. I don't know if this would fall under teachable moment, but it's kind of a segment I was looking forward to all morning long. Information fueled, opinion driven. That's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm Michael DelGiorno, and it was interesting. This is a Guardian.com story, and the headline is Roald Dahl rewrites, edits language in books criticized as absurd censorship. Critics are accusing the British publisher of censoring classic children's books after it removed colorful language from the books, such as Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Matilda. The review of new editions of Dahl's books, now available in bookstores, showed that some passages relating to weight, mental health, gender, race were all altered. Clearly, it was wokeified. Somebody went through and did a woke version of all these classic books. Augustus Gloop, Charlie's gluttonous antagonist in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which originally was published in 1964, is no longer enormously fat. He's just enormous. He could be a big, strong, muscular WWE type person. Oh, hang on a second. Hold that thought. We'll get back to our teachable moment. Joe Biden is about to address Europe and the world from Poland. And you're listening to it live on WTN.
As well as mayors and Polish political leaders from all across the country. Thank you for welcoming back to Poland. You know, it was nearly 1 year ago. I spoke at the Royal Castle here in Warsaw, just weeks after Vladimir Putin had unleashed his murderous assault on Ukraine, the largest land war in Europe since World War II had begun. And the principles that have been the cornerstone of peace, prosperity, and stability on this planet for more than 75 years were at risk of being shattered. 1 year ago, the world was bracing for the fall of Kyiv. Well, I just come from a visit to Kyiv, and I can report Kyiv stands strong. Kyiv stands proud. It stands tall. And most important, it stands free. When Russia invaded, it wasn't just Ukraine being tested. The whole world faced a test for the ages. Europe was being tested. America was being tested. NATO was being tested. All democracies are being tested. And the questions we faced were as simple as they were profound. Would we respond, or would we look the other way? Would we be strong, or would we be weak? Would we, all of our allies, would be united or divided? 1 year later, we know the answer. We did respond. We would be strong. We would be united. And the world would not look the other way. We also face fundamental questions about the commitment to the most basic of principles. Would we stand up for the sovereignty of nations? Would we stand up for the right of people to live free from naked aggression? Would we stand up for democracy? 1 year later, we know the answers. Yes, we would stand up for sovereignty, and we did. Yes, we would stand up for the right of people to live free from aggression, and we did. And we would stand up for democracy, and we did. And yesterday, I had the honor to stand with President Zelensky in Kyiv to declare that we will keep standing up for these same things, no matter what. When President Putin ordered his tanks to roll into Ukraine, he thought we would roll over. He was wrong. The Ukrainian people are too brave. America, Europe, a coalition of nations from the Atlantic to the Pacific, we were too unified. Democracy was too strong. Instead of an easy victory he perceived and predicted, Putin left with burnout tanks and Russia's forces in disarray. He thought he'd get the Finlandization of NATO. Instead, he got the NATOization of Finland and Sweden. He thought NATO would fracture and divide. Instead, NATO is more united and more unified than ever before. He thought he could weaponize energy to crack your resolve, Europe's resolve. Instead, we're working together to end Europe's dependence on Russian fossil fuels. He thought autocrats like himself were tough and leaders of democracy were soft. And then he met the iron will of America and the nations everywhere that refused to accept the world governed by fear and force. He found himself at war with a nation led by a man whose courage would be forged in fire and steel, President Zelensky. President Putin is confronted with something today that he didn't think was possible a year ago. The democracies of the world have grown stronger, not weaker. But the autocrats of the world have grown weaker, not stronger. Because in the moments of great upheaval and uncertainty, that knowing what you stand for is most important. And knowing who stands with you makes all the difference. The people of Poland know that. You know that. In fact, you know it better than anyone here in Poland. Because that's what solidarity means. Through partition and oppression, when the beautiful city was destroyed after the Warsaw Uprising, during decades under the iron fist of communist rule, Poland endured because you stood together.
President
That's
Joe
how brave
Biden
leaders
from
of the opposition
Poland,
and the people of Belarus
live on
continued to fight
WTN.
for their democracy. That's how the resolve of Moldovan people, the resolve of the people of Moldova to live in freedom, gained them independence and put them on the path to EU membership. President Sandu is here today. I'm not sure where she is, but I'm proud to stand with you and the freedom-loving people of Moldova. Give her a round of applause. 1 year into this war, Putin no longer doubts the strength of our coalition, but he still doubts our conviction. He doubts our staying power. He doubts our continued support for Ukraine. He doubts whether NATO can remain unified. But there should be no doubt. Our support for Ukraine will not waver. NATO will not be divided, and we will not tire. President Putin's craven lust for land and power will fail, and the Ukrainian people's love for their country will prevail. Democracies of the world will stand guard over freedom today, tomorrow, and forever. So that's what's at stake here. Freedom. That's the message I carried to Kyiv yesterday, directly to the people of Ukraine. When President Zelensky said he came to the United States in December, quote, he said, this struggle will define the world and what our children and grandchildren, how they live, and then their children and grandchildren. He wasn't only speaking about the children and grandchildren of Ukraine. He was speaking about all of our children and grandchildren, yours and mine. We're seeing again today what the people of Poland and the people across Europe saw for decades. Appetites of the autocrat cannot be appeased. They must be opposed. Autocrats only understand one word: no, no, no. No, you will not take my country. No, you will not take my freedom. No, you will not take my future. And I'll repeat tonight what I said last year in the same place. A dictator bent on rebuilding an empire will never be able to ease the people's love of liberty. Brutality will never grind down the will of the free. And Ukraine will never be a victory for Russia. Never.
Please say goodbye. Please. I'm begging you.
For free people refuse to live in a world of hopelessness and darkness. You know, this has been an extraordinary year in every sense. Extraordinary brutality from Russian forces and mercenaries. They've committed depravities, crimes against humanity, without shame or compunction. They've targeted civilians with death and destruction, used rape as a weapon of war, stolen Ukrainian children in an attempt to steal Ukraine's future, bombed train stations, maternity hospitals, schools, and orphanages. No one can turn away their eyes from the atrocities Russia is committing against the Ukrainian people. It's abhorrent. It's abhorrent. But extraordinarily, as well, has been the response of the Ukrainian people and the world. 1 year after the bombs began to fall, Russian tanks rolled into Ukraine. Ukraine is still independent and free.
I can't. God, can I please leave? Can I?
Yeah, this is just a rah-rah speech.
Yeah, and nobody's given the rah-rah cues. So, we're getting sequences of screams with no applause separating it. It is nice to see, though, that the shooting is stopped. So at least the president is safe and taking cover. Okay.
Yeah, there's no policy. There's
no. This is all freedom at stake, democracy at stake. Kyiv standing strong, tall, and free. Putin's a loser. I'm a winner. Look at me uniting Europe. That's basically what it is. It's all very political. Just so you know, by the way, we were talking about the Russian Empire original map. That would be if that is the motive. Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, I think. Turkmenistan, all would be Azerbaijan, Georgia for sure, Ukraine, obviously where he is now, and Belarus to the north, Latvia, Estonia, portions of Finland, and you heard the president bring up Moldova because that would be just the eastern tip of Moldova would fall under the old Russian Empire map, and portions, probably a third of Poland would. So, again, if nobody ever discusses this. The president's speech pattern sounds like a man who's frozen outside, and there doesn't seem to be any real breath coming out. So I don't know how cold it is in Warsaw, or if that's just his speech pattern. It was very hard to understand. But even that aside, there's no open discussion about what Vladimir Putin's motives are. My strong opinion has always been he does not want to reassemble the Soviet Union, though he thinks abandoning it was its greatest mistake. He is trying to put together the landmass and borders of the Russian Empire. Now, that is almost more biblically significant than it is politically significant. And so I'm watching all these players play along, but nobody ever comes right out and says that. We believe Vladimir Putin is trying to reassemble the Russian Empire before his death, geographically. Now, that brings into play Turkey. I would look for a motive towards America, but primarily Israel. And then you kind of got Gog and Magog taking shape. So I understand why the president is in Poland today, because I understand Putin's trying to put together the old Russian Empire. And if Ukraine was to fall, the next logical step forward would be Poland. Actually, you could make a case. I think he'd go to Belarus next, but then Poland's right after that. So if that's what they're fearing, that's why he goes to Kyiv. I don't know why they're doing siren sounds, but he's here to proclaim assurance to Poland in a Cold War situation that Putin is failing, Kyiv is strong, tall, and free, and therefore you're safe for the time being. And then, aren't we great? I think I just summarized it in a language that's understandable, but I don't even know anymore. It's 10:53 at Super Talk 99.7 WT, and I'm trying to be respectful aid to an elder.
Yes.
B to the presidency, but see, that was painful. I couldn't do anymore. It was starting to feel like torture.
Yeah. Yes,
Bring it back.
The people of Ukraine, the future of Ukraine, a Ukraine that's free, sovereign, and democratic. That was the dream of those who declared Ukraine's independence more than 30 years ago.
See, I'm not mature enough. I would want to make it entertaining. All right, get rid of it.
He said this 10 minutes ago.
Yeah,
He's saying the same thing over and over.
Yes.
And
then people are waving flags whenever they're told to.
It doesn't have the the Kennedy feel. It looks like it does look like somebody in a senior center very angry. It's one tone anger in spurts of 5 words. I just couldn't do it anymore. It was like triggering me.
Well, one thing that nobody's talking about right now either is there is a Republican contingent from the House Foreign Affairs Committee that has met with President Zelensky today in Kyiv. So there is a Republican contingent there, and we know that the Republicans in the House are wanting to know more about accountability for all the
money.
aid.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tremendous amount of money. I thought the conversation we had earlier, we'll kind of revisit a little portion, not play it, but the keys to it with James Carafano is this is a Cold War situation, not a proxy war situation. Now, I understand. I've always said it this way. You'd have to be over 40 to have really lived and experienced the Cold War the way it was. And I think people forget that. So this is not a proxy war, but it is expensive support in a Cold War, and you're doing it to avoid a bigger war down the road. But that presumes that a Putin who is struggling in Ukraine is anxious to get to Poland and take on all of NATO. And losing his war in Ukraine, he's excited to engage in a world war. And then what I brought to the table, which I thought was most significant, is World War I and World War II are on Hitler. Because Hitler wasn't going to stop. The geography Hitler was after was the entire earth.
Everything.
All right. Whereas nobody ever talks about it. Crank him up real quick. I don't think he's talking about it yet.
Ever imposed in any country in history.
He may remember or may understand Putin is really trying to reassemble the Russian Empire, which would go into Poland, but not much further than that. So this notion, We got to keep spending. We got to keep being here, or World War III is going to happen. Or if we lose our will and pull our money and Ukraine falls, World War III is going to happen. Those are not certainties in and of themselves. And in the meantime, you're looking at a significant amount of money. And if you're going to be a member of Congress, you need to do due diligence on it. But I also don't like the notion that we can't have foreign policy without having a Republican foreign policy, a Democrat foreign policy, a president who screams and rambles in Warsaw and dodges mortar shells that don't exist in Ukraine, and then a contingency that follows up right behind him. That's sending bad messages as well. So really failed foreign policy continues in Poland today. Ken Weaver has more coming up in the news in about 3 minutes. I'm Michael DelGiorno, and look, you probably entered the new year with the same pain you had last year and the year before and the decade before. Back pain, neck pain, knee pain, hip pain, elbow pain. They all occupy our lives with pain from the moment we wake to the moment we fall asleep, if we're able to sleep. And it always keeps us from doing the things that we love. At the Dr. Gill Center in Franklin, we're helping people get back to pain-free living. We've been doing it for 30 years. We've done over 500,000 procedures. We've treated over 30,000 patients. And we can do it with no needles and no downtime. I know you think of us as a chiropractic office, and I'm proud of that. Chiropractic care really works. But we've got state-of-the-art industry equipment like Class 5 lasers, red light therapy, spinal decompression therapy. Dr. Gill was the pioneer in our state. Separation without a scalpel. It was a game changer. To find out, you got to begin with a diagnosis. And $23 covers everything at the Dr. Gill Center. Your examination, all your x-rays and imaging. So don't do nothing. Don't settle for a pill. And don't live another year in pain. And get back to doing the things you love. Call the Dr. Gill Center on their new number and set up your $23 new patient appointment today. 882-4838. 882-4838. That's 882-4838. Online at callmepainfree.com.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Still tracking summer-like temperatures this week in Middle Tennessee. But right now, we've got a pretty bad traffic issue. It's in Sumner County. Vietnam Veterans Boulevard westbound between Indian Lake Boulevard and New Shackle Island Road is closed due to a crash. We've also still got that crash downtown Nashville, Broadway at Rosa Parks Boulevard. Injuries are involved. President Biden's wrapped up a speech to the world from Poland 1 day after making an announced visit to Ukraine to mark 1 year since Russia's invasion.
When Russia invaded, it wasn't just Ukraine being tested. The whole world faced a test for the ages. Europe was being tested. America was being tested. NATO was being tested. All democracies are being tested.
President said he will be announcing more sanctions this week. Earlier in Moscow, President Vladimir Putin delivered the Kremlin's version of the State of the Union this morning.
The main headline from Vladimir Putin's lengthy speech was that Russia is suspending the last major nuclear arms agreement with the US, the New START treaty. Putin blamed the West for the war in Ukraine and tried to reassure Russians that their country is winning, claiming Russia's economy has overcome sanctions. He said the West wants to inflict a strategic defeat on Russia, also telling Russians he was protecting them from same-sex marriages. His speech was also heavily addressed to countries in the global south, which are more supportive of holding peace talks right now, which would currently favor Russia.
Patrick Revel reporting. Back here in this country, Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg says the Biden administration will take steps to hold the rail industry more accountable for the toxic derailment in Ohio, telling ABC's Good Morning America he will go to the site when, as he put it, the time is right.
There's two kinds of people who show up when you have that kind of disaster experience. People who are there because they have a specific job to do and are there to get something done, and people who are there to look good and have their picture taken. When I go, it will be about action on rail safety.
Buttigieg said a statute that caps rail companies' fines at just $250,000 a year needs to change. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
All right, at 10:08, we have sunny skies in Middle Tennessee, 65 degrees at the Puffy Muffin in Brentwood. To the north in Hendersonville, it's 63. Downtown on Music Road, naked statues, sunny skies, 63 degrees. It feels like 63. At WTN, the market, a disaster. The Dow's down 542 at 33,284. NASDAQ's down 240 at 11,546. And the S&P's down 67 at 4,011. All three are in the red. The market is dramatically down at 1109. Brentwood Jewelry, the official jeweler of the DelGiorno home. Why? Because unlike most jewelers who just advertise Valentine's Day and Christmas, we realize real life happens all year long. There's no way of knowing when your birthday is, that key birthday for someone you love, or that anniversary date, key anniversary date for someone you love, or a sweet 16 birthday for someone you love. Happens all year long. We got to be there. We got to be there with the highest quality and the most affordability. And that's what we've done for 50 years and continue to do year after year, anniversary after anniversary, birthday after birthday. I love that under the glass, there's something in every price range to make an impact. Whether it's rings, earrings, necklaces, bracelets for her, watches for him. And if you can't find it under the glass, or you want to tell a unique story, right behind the wall are 10 master jewelers who can create anything. Brentwood Jewelry now has new hours for 2023 starting this year. We're taking Sundays and Mondays off so that we can spend more time with family. But check us out in our Tuesday through Saturday new hours. Online anytime at BrentwoodJewelry.com or just off Franklin Road on Church Street in the heart of Brentwood. Exceptional style, exceptional deals every day for 50 years. That's Brentwood Jewelry. All right, I want to get to our teachable moment, but I need to recap just a little bit. So apparently President Biden swept, quote unquote, unannounced into Ukraine. I don't think that's how it works. I don't think that's how it happened. I don't think the sirens were anything but political theater.
Unannounced to everybody but Russia.
And of course, it's Kyiv 1 year later. What I think, and again, I don't know if this is Matrix. I mean, I would imagine, for Christine Amanpour and some of the others at CNN and MSNBC and so on, they're buying into this. This is a wartime president looking presidential, and they'll play it up. I think for most Americans, based on polling, for whatever that's worth, I would think they're more concerned with our own economy and the fact that we seem to be heading into a deep recession. I don't know. I mean, listen, I follow foreign policy, but I watch year after year when everyone doesn't. I got an eye on Vladimir Putin because I think he's trying to reassemble the Russian Empire map. And that would take him to Poland next. And that would fulfill the geographic territory of Gog and Magog. So there's a lot of reasons I'm concerned about that. I don't believe that the American people are. And the American people are losing their will for this expenditure. After all, it's out of control spending, whether at home or abroad, that causes inflation, which causes the Fed to enact spending kills, which enacts recession. So I don't know how this is playing in the matrix. I can think of a lot of reasons why you would try to create this political theater or political distraction. I would think you're doing it to distract people from inflation and recession. Distract them from the nightmare that was Afghanistan. Biden leaves Afghanistan before we were ready, botches the exit, and gives Taliban control, pristinely putting Afghanistan right back where it was prior to 9/11 when we entered. Maybe it's to distract you from the balloons he was shooting down. 1, too late, and 3, didn't need to be shot down at all with very expensive planes and very expensive missiles. Maybe it's all the classified documents they're trying to distract you from. Maybe it's Hunter's laptop that keeps dripping and closer and closer. I could go down the whole list and I'll just sound like everybody else on talk radio. The sirens were a low moment. The speech in Poland, I get it. I don't know why you had to deliver it so loud and angry. I always zero base my thoughts. So I would say, if I'm the president of the United States and I know the country's concerned about the economy and how much this support is costing, do I really want to go there and make it the top story and make that everybody's focus? I mean, if you really cared about Ukraine, you'd lay low. You'd keep the support coming. You'd stand by your decision to keep sending it, but you don't go there to gloat. I don't even know that you want to send that message to Putin and put more on the plate than needs to be. But he didn't just go there to gloat. He went there as the self-proclaimed jolly good fellow. Does anybody want to play back the speech? Too long, too loud, too angry, too hard to understand. But one thing I did pick up on, he kept saying, we. I think it was Red that texted me during the speech and said, are you kidding me? This is the guy that was sending the escape pod for Zelensky while he was suiting up for war. Is Joe Biden and the left trying to take credit for the will and fight of the Ukrainian people? That's insulting. You were willing to risk money. They're out in the streets risking their lives. That's insulting. So I will give you this. It's a lot of political theater. Supposedly, just unannounced, spontaneously done, kind of a Kyiv victory dance onto Poland to report the good news. Kiev is still strong. Kiev is still tall. Kyiv is still free. Poland, you got reprieve. I mean, it was just all a bit ridiculous. I think I stirred up all the equipment. And if the politics is to distract you from Afghanistan or balloons or classified documents or Hunter Biden's laptop, I don't think it will last very long. But that's the reality of today with some sirens. By the way, I should make something clear. The sirens, that was old Joe. Yeah, you send somebody, another $50 billion or what have you, you can say, and by the way, can you run some sirens while my president's there so people think he's really brave and strong? Sure, we'll run a siren. This part was me.
I detest myself for having offended the Aurora.
That part's me. That wasn't. The sirens, that was them. This, me. All right, so that's it. I want to get to my teachable moment because it looks like it's just and I'm going to do a quick summary because we started it right before we went to Biden. When we come back, I'll do a quick summary. They're rewriting and changing language in books. They're taking their wokeness and rewriting history with it. That says something about their desire. Media bias every day rewrites reality. The Matrix rewrites reality. The Social Dilemma rewrites reality. But to actually go back in and change books. The notion that you must change yesterday as if it ever happened or there's something wrong with you today, rather than yesterday shows you how we've changed and progressed. Progressives are the only ones who refuse to acknowledge progress. Doesn't that ever strike anybody odd? You're a progressive. You should be willing and proud of the progress we've made, but they never. What is the psychological effect of that? I'm not going to talk about books. Everybody in talk radio will do that. Just in life. This notion that you can go back and change the past when you can't, but when you do, it somehow makes you better today when it has nothing to do with today. It's all striking me very odd. So I want to revisit it. Can you hit the music real quick? I want to revisit it with just the story about the books, the Roald Dahl book series, and these classics that are all being wokeified and edited and rewritten as they try to create their utopia in a past. They've had less peace than ever in the present and more division than ever in the present. Oh, the feeble left. We'll look at it next.
We'll tell you what President Biden, in a speech from Poland, says he's going to do to Russia this week for invading Ukraine. That's coming up at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
So just to recap as quick as I can, this is a Guardian.com story on Roald Dahl rewriting, editing language and books. They're just making books woke. But they're taking old children's classics, and whether it's weight, gender, mental health, or race, just wokeifying the book. The word black was removed in the description of the terrible traitors in the 70s, the fabulous Mr. Fox, enormously fat, and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory was removed. It's just pure political correctness. Now, there is, just to make it brief and to the point, there is something about the far left's agenda. You know, you look through the course of history and we go through times and trends and ebbs and flows and dark times, and then we come out of them. And you just see it over a timeline. Only the left wants to erase the past and make it forever so. Even though the future is already getting ready to have its say about this generation of wokeness. But they want to fix it all, change it all, so it's etched in stone like a ruin, and the real past never happened, and their rewritten past did. So that they can tell future generations, long after their idiocy has been proved unsustainable, that we've always believed that God makes mistakes, and sometimes girls are trapped in boys' bodies. We've always believed being morbidly obese is wonderful and fulfilling, and no one should body shame you. Now, I think through kindness, nobody should body shame people ever. But this notion now that it's better to be gay, it's better to be lesbian, it's better to be bisexual, it's better to be transgendered, it's better to be obese. But, I just look at it kind of personally, and I think, there are some things, and my kids are great at throwing it up. My son remembers all my old girlfriends more than I do. My son remembers all my sins in my 20s and 30s that I have finally forgiven myself and forgotten, and reminds me of them in very timely occasions. And he always ends with the same thing. What were you thinking? What were you thinking? As embarrassed as I am over the mistakes I've made in the past, there is something very reassuring about knowing they're there. They all shaped me. They all inform me of the progress I've made. I don't think like that. I'm not passionate about that, focused on that, acting on that. The answer is I matured in my relationship with Christ. The answer is I met your mother. The answer is I had all three of you kids. I grew up. I don't understand why the left always wants to make the past a reflection of today. They want white generations today to pay for white mistakes generations ago. That's not fair. That's not right. You can't do it. The thing I would beg them all to understand is you can't change the past. Slavery happened. Separate bathrooms, not allowing them to eat in restaurants. Separate water. It all happened. There was a time you said colored, and that's what they wanted. And then there was a time you said a different word. And then I don't even know what the preference is today. I mean, you go back and you hear old presidents talking about the Negro or colored people. That was just the language of the day. I'm glad some of this we progressed past. But you can't go back and change it, and you don't make anybody safer by doing that. And if you did, what does it do to your present? You know what would make a difference? Loving and being kind to someone today. That would make a difference. Being extra sensitive to people who are overweight and how they feel about themselves. You don't want to encourage and validate the unhealthiness, but you want to love the person in there. Do that today. That changes something. For God's sakes, I was reading a story this morning. They're playing cricket. It's not just somebody who thinks now they're conveniently a girl when their body mass and muscle mass is a boy and their birth is a boy. It's a 26-year-old playing against 12-year-old girls, and he's nearly killing them. That's how crazy it's gotten with cricket in England. First of all, what's a guy in his 20s doing playing against 12-year-olds? Let alone the future hasn't finished the flaws of this woke generation. But they're trying to erase what they see as a flawed previous generation. And it just reminds me what I always ask, and I've never heard anybody call or super text and answer. Why is it they call themselves progressive, but the one thing you can always count on, progressives will never acknowledge the progress we've made. And they're always having to remind us of past sins because they can't find enough in present time to focus on that proves their failed worldview. It's 11:30 at WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Still have those 2 summer-like days ahead, but it'll be mixed with a little rain. Full forecast coming up in 2 minutes. Got a crash in Cheatham County. It has 24 westbound at the Springfield-Ashland City Highway 49 exit 24. Stop and go. And in Sumner County, Vietnam Veterans Boulevard westbound is closed between Indian Lake Boulevard and New Shackle Island Road because of a crash. President Biden, in a speech from Poland, says Ukraine will never be a victory for Russia.
1 year ago, the world was bracing for the fall of Kyiv. Well, I just come from a visit to Kyiv, and I can report Kyiv stands strong.
And the president says the U.S.
Kyiv stands tall.
The president says
Kyiv stands free. You don't want me to do it anymore?
I think he did it plenty.
Okay, thanks, Al. I won't interrupt that.
The president said the U.S. and partners will announce further sanctions this week. And the Supreme Court hearing a case to decide if someone can sue a social media company for damages when someone posts something some may see as harmful on their platforms. Here's Justice Clarence Thomas addressing a lawyer for the family who blames Google for allowing content on YouTube they claim radicalized the terrorists who killed their 23-year-old daughter in the 2015 Paris attack.
I don't understand how a neutral suggestion about something that you've expressed an interest in is aiding and abetting. I don't understand it.
The internet industry says protection from lawsuits is essential to keeping the internet as a forum for free exchange of ideas, innovation, and creativity. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Well, my wife asks me this every day. Do we have a new 911 Lone Star? I can honestly say yes, tonight you do. 911 Lone Star accused on Fox. Night Court. Have either of you two tried Night Court yet?
No.
You'll root for it so hard, and it still won't happen.
They can't recapture that chemistry, man.
No, they didn't. American Auto, La Brea, FBI International, FBI Most Wanted, Rookie Feds, and then Will Trent. There's nothing on television, although for my wife, at least she has 911 Lone Star. Kelsey Grammer, 68. Doesn't it seem like he'd be older than that?
Yeah, it kind of does.
I mean, we were so young. I mean, I don't even think I was when did Cheers start? It's had to be late
to have
70s?
been 79.
79, 80, somewhere
or
in there?
80, yeah.
I mean, I was a
look that up.
14-year-old, and Kelsey Grammer was sitting at the bar at Cheers. How could he only be 10 years older than me?
You guys were both a little off.
Was 80s? More later?
Yeah, 82.
82.
Okay, so
Season
I
one.
was 17.
I was.
So Kelsey Grammer in those early Cheers episodes was only like 26, 27 years old?
Yeah, I guess so.
He looked more like he was 36.
I love Kelsey Grammer. He's one of my all-time favorites. Frasier, I think, is the perfect sitcom. He's got a new movie about a pastor that's out right now, and the name is slipping me. I still need to see that. And they're working on a Frasier reboot. Kelsey Grammer, 68 years old today. That's our feature birthday. If it's your birthday, happy birthday. We're glad you were born, and thank you so much for listening. The Preds won on Saturday 7-3. Played the best on Thursday. The Bruins got beat 5-0.
Got destroyed.
Played the worst on Saturday, won 7-3. Then went to Minnesota the next day. We were a little exhausted. Lost 4-3. Now we're home against the Canucks tonight.
I'll be there tonight. Let's
You're
go.
going?
Yeah, I'm going. I'm excited.
That's the way to go, Brother Mac.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
You didn't get Chaz Corzine or Scott Hamilton's tickets that I've been begging for, did you?
No.
Oh, going the old-fashioned way? You're paying for yourself?
My girlfriend got some free tickets.
Hey,
so
now.
I'll take that.
I'll tell you what.
That's the way to go, Brother Mac.
Yes.
Her star is on the rise with me. Other than that little keto phase.
Yeah,
her
she
star.
had that little blip, but she's past that.
Smashville tonight, 7 o'clock. For the rest of us that have spent all our money on cars, we'll be watching on
1923.
Bally's Sports. 1923, what?
That's what I'm watching. That's what my wife and I are watching right now.
Oh, I tried.
1923.
I got to tell you something. I bailed after one episode.
Brother Michael, you got to hang with it.
Should I?
Yeah.
Should I go back and do it?
Well, are you a fan of Yellowstone?
Yes, and 18.
Okay.
I never remember what it was. Was it 1893?
1883.
All right, so I thought 1883 was the best, then Yellowstone.
I haven't heard of this one.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is Harrison Ford. And,
Yeah.
And a wonderful actress.
Now, Harrison Ford in Shrinking, that is spectacular.
It's outstanding. We're watching that, too.
Yeah, Apple TV. And
yes.
Yeah, and by the way, let me give you that pick to click.
Even though there's some wokeness in it, it's still good.
I think if I could give any pick to click, if you haven't seen, it's on Showtime, the documentary, I think it's Hitsville, The History of Motown, and it's Berry Gordy and Smokey Robinson walking you through.
I'll check that
the
out.
entire business model.
Sounds awesome.
It will blow you away. And, we did earlier a little thing. They just did a scientific study and found out we make up our mind on what's a hit song or a song we like in the first 5 seconds, something Berry Gordy believed in greatly, which is why some of those great Motown classics all had such great starts to them, because he believed in that. You got 5 seconds to make a first impression, make a great one. So I want to make the pick to click Hitsville, The History of Motown. You're going to make it
1923.
1923. It's hard to believe. It's kind of like we did the same thing with 1883, right? There was 1883, Lincoln at Ford Theater, kind of a look, inner cities and Central Park and, that kind of thing. And then there was like the way they were living in the Wild West where people were like shooting and killing and stealing your stuff.
Yeah.
Well, now you're in the roaring 20s.
Yeah. And they're still shooting and
it
killing.
probably, so when I was looking at it, it was kind of like, well, it still looks like it's 1883. In 1923.
It is, but it's
Why don't they journey east to, like a reasonable city? I was at Nelson, or not at Nelson. It was Cool Springs Nissan. And they have this new Pathfinder that's kind of more of an outdoorsy, rugged version.
Okay.
And they have a custom tent that it fits to the back of it, and you open it.
Oh, nice.
And so, you have your living room and tent area that you can have access to the truck. It was really cool. The guy was like, oh, and the tent comes with it. And Nick and I both looked at each other and started laughing, like, what would we do with a tent? I said, we're really more, for us, roughing it is Drury Inn. Drury Inn is roughing it. Can't see us out with the bears in the woods.
Yeah.
But that 1883 masterpiece. Watched the first episode, maybe at the beginning of the second of 19, and I was kind of, and then I went on to White Lotus, and I forgot to ever go back.
Yeah,
but I'll go back. So you're gonna make the pick to click 1923.
Yeah, 1923 or Shrinking.
Or Shrinking if you've never seen it. I'm going to make it Hitsville, The History of Motown. And only Andrea is going to be watching 911 Lone Star. Oh, my gosh. What if Andrea suddenly had Ralph's voice? What a turn off. Do we have any nuts?
Oh.
Any nuts in Yingling?
I bet your brother Ralph doesn't even watch that show.
No. He likes
and Blue Bloods.
Blue Bloods and Young Sheldon. That's all I watch. I stopped reading for Blue Bloods and nothing else.
It'd be worth it just to hear Brother Ralph's laugh. I love Brother Ralph's
I was trying to think
laugh.
of there was a song I was thinking of the other day. Because I remember when we did Bitches Back and Ralph's voice.
Oh, my God.
I did all the lyrics. I think management got mad at us for that, didn't they?
Probably.
Because I was doing the bitch is stuck. I was doing the words. But then there was another one. Oh, AC/DC, shook you all night long. I should do that as Ralph. Have you ever listened to
that? Brother Ralph do
I sang "Shook Me All Night Long" all my childhood. I never really listened to the words. Until they came on the other day, and the earth was shaking, the walls were quaking. It was like our ED commercial on steroids.
I was getting ready to say, Brother Michael,
I had never noticed that when he was
What he was talking about.
I don't know. I think subliminally, I was thinking they were dancing. I don't know what I was thinking.
Special dance.
But when my son was in the car, I was like, we got to turn this. But it was too late. I was already doing this, though.
Right.
Earth was quaking my mind. You shook me all night long. 11:39 news was brought to you by... I can't do it. I think I peed. She was a fast machine. She kept her motor clean. She was. I can't do it. Boy, that is a terrible song.
Yeah, I didn't realize
Gosh, I
that.
love it, but it's a terrible song. Currently in Franklin, we have sunshine, 65 degrees. Mount Juliet, 63. Down in the borough, you're the warm spot at 66. Downtown on Music Row, the statues are naked. The skies are sunny. It's 63 degrees. I couldn't do it. 63 degrees and feels like 63 in Nashville. The Dow, disaster, down 547 at 33,278. NASDAQ's down 238 at 11,548. The S&P is down 66 at 4,012. And everyone said, thank you, Joe. King Insurance and Associates. They're an independent agent. That's a huge advantage for you. That means they have multiple companies they can shop on your behalf. And we don't just say it, we do it. It may take us a day longer, but we're going to shop everyone, even against each other, because that, along with bundling, is how we get you significantly better coverage at a dramatically lower premium. Better coverage, less money. Now, over the course of 28 years, we weeded out the non-competitive companies, kept great relationships, so we do have a better pool to choose from. And maybe that's how they beat my previous independent agent by 40%. All I know is I have the best coverage on my home, its contents, my automobiles, added teenagers. I have better coverage, and I saved $1,500. My listeners saved the same or more. But bottom line is, don't switch because we did. Switch because you should. You deserve this better coverage, and with inflation, you need the money you'll save to absorb inflation. So get a rate quote today and make the switch to King because you should. Call 329-8121. You got everything to save, nothing to lose. 329-8121. That's 329-8121 or online at tkinginsurance.com. Poor Emery at King. He must think I've lost my mind. We've done a complete fleet change at the DelGiorno home. So the girls were sharing a 2019 Ford Escape.
Yes.
I'm going to blink and they're going to graduate. And I don't want to be dealing with all this during that time. In fact, I want to be enjoying the moment of graduation.
Yeah.
Going on that big last family vacation together before they come back and gear up for Belmont. So I thought, now's a pretty good time to get all this stuff done. So I traded in Nick's Jeep Renegade and got Alex a Toyota Tacoma. Then Anna knew she wanted the Nissan Kicks, and she loves it. Both of them love their cars, so I got the Nissan Kicks.
Kicks.
I traded in the Escape. No, I traded in the Escape for the Tacoma truck for Alex.
Okay, yeah.
The Nissan Kicks, I traded in Nick's Renegade, and then I had to buy Nick a Wrangler. So now all three of my kids have their cars, and they're happy. Well, then that left me with having to get something for me, and so I finally had to let go of Bessie, my beloved Fiat Spider. And I went to Nissan Cool Springs, and I'm telling you, I am in love with my new Rogue. So
Nissan Rogue.
I got the Rogue,
nice.
And I got the Platinum, so it has everything that my BMW had. I mean, what do they call that when you can see everything is shoot up on the, projected onto the windshield in the road in front of you. I forgot what they call that.
No.
But it's got everything: heated seats, heated wheels, steering wheel. I mean, I love it. So that's it. They must think I'm nuts at Nissan Cool Springs. I bought 3 vehicles from them in 2 weeks. God. They either think they have some unrealistic view about me being rich.
Oh, yeah.
Which is just the opposite now, poor and vulnerable. But I got and I can't tell you enough. I got a 2020 Jeep Wrangler with less than 20,000 miles for under $30,000, which is an extraordinary price. And I just love, the Kicks and even the Pathfinder that I wanted. I was kind of back and forth because I almost got the Maxima. In fact, if the Maxima had come in either blue or black, I might have leaned that way. That's how nice the Maxima has gotten. But I'm very happy. I got great treatment. They're just wonderful people. I love that everyday low pricing, hassle-free. They were very, very fair with trade-ins. So I got to tell you something. We live in the home of Nissan. The Nissan product is certainly better than ever. And even in the case of our used Jeep, we did all 3 at Nissan Cool Springs and just had an amazing experience. But they must think I'm crazy.
Yeah, you've been there quite a lot.
Yeah, because trade-in, I didn't have that I paid off, but I had to finance mine. And the guy was like, weren't you just here last week? I thought I saw you. Yeah.
Yep.
We just did a whole fleet change. Now, the only one that has a surviving vehicle from the old fleet is Andrea.
I was about to say, Andrea, no change.
Let go of that Honda Pilot. And believe it or not, I was willing to put her in a Pathfinder this weekend. I think I might just quit my job and start selling them. Yeah. Maybe if I'm a salesman at Nissan Cool Springs and I just buy a car once a week, I'd be like a top salesman. It's crazy. All right, so final two stories. I had mentioned this earlier. Now, I got to be honest with you. I stared at this several times, and I'm thinking, did they mean to say middle school aged transgendered? But then I saw the picture, and it doesn't, but how long are we going to do these transgendered playing against people of their birth gender? Concerned coaches and parents in the UK are raising an alarm after a middle-aged transgendered woman who transitioned from being a biological male was allowed to compete in cricket against girls as young as 12 years old. What's a middle-aged man? Oh, I know I can't say that because he now thinks he's a woman. But a biological man, middle-aged, playing with 12-year-olds only. That'd be like me playing against 12-year-old little leaguers today. When did they start mixing that in? So now does he think of himself as a woman and a 12-year-old girl? And that's why he's playing against 12-year-old? I mean, who does that? Who allows that? Well, multiple letters to the England and Wales Cricket Board from parents have expressed concerns. There's always, whenever you do these stories, there's always somebody, making one of these statements. I got to tell you, this particular player, said one coach, hits the ball harder than any other I've seen in the league because he's a middle-aged man, not a 12-year-old girl. But they stick to the wokeness, stick to the wiring, and it just makes no sense. I'll never forget there was a transgendered woman, so a man, boxer, boxing women and claiming to be a woman. And after the fight, this girl's all concussed. Every cheekbone is broken. She's going, I'm telling you, man, that girl hit harder than anybody I've ever fought. Yeah, I guess so. It was a man. It's like there's like a level of insanity to it all. But how on earth you've got now a transgendered woman who was really a man playing cricket in England against 12-year-old girls. And then who do we turn to? Well, of course, Caitlyn Jenner. Saying that the transgender community needs to have some level of discretion. I think we're living in crazy times. To put a bow on it, that was not correct what the one super texter said. So Juneteenth is officially a federal holiday.
Really?
Not just acknowledged, it's an official holiday. So according to U.S. Code, New Year's Day, January 1st, is a holiday. Martin Luther King Jr. Day, which we determined was in the 80s, which is when we went to one President's Day for Lincoln. And we used to have Lincoln and Washington birthdays. We combined them to make room for Martin Luther King Jr. Then Memorial Day, as it's always been. Independence Day, as it's always been. Labor Day, as it's always been. Apparently, we've added Juneteenth on June 19th.
Yep,
and Indigenous Peoples Day is really the old Columbus Day, which I'm wondering if you're politically correct to celebrate the Columbus side of it versus Indigenous People Day. And then Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Good Friday. At least I see that up here. Tennessee public federal holidays.
I don't have that.
You don't got that? That might be wrong.
Not on this federal list, but I don't know if we do. It wasn't on our company list either.
No, yeah, you're right. You're right.
Did we? No, because Good Friday would have been earlier than June.
Yeah, it would have been.
I don't know how it came up, but somebody is kind of reshaping all these. Well, I know how it came up. I was talking about, Lincoln and Washington, my two favorite presidents. Washington, far and away, my favorite, should be everyone's favorite. And now we don't even call it that. We just call it President's Day. And then we started getting into a conversation of all the holidays they've changed. It's an ever-changing country we live in, both in days off, but it's good to be back. 11:53 on WTN. I don't know how I got this group of friends that are in my phone. Corey the Yard Boy, how about Ralph singing Hair of the Dog? No. I was not born yesterday. 11:56 at Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm Michael DelGiorno. Matt Murphy is next. You know, we were talking about, I should have just gone to the Super Text line, as 17 people reminded me it's heads-up display.
Yeah.
Is what it's called. There are certain things you just can't live without on vehicles now. Like, I could never go back to not having reverse camera. And with these new Nissans, you have not just, you can have a forward camera, backward camera, side camera, and then you also see the vehicle from above. It really,
insane.
Yeah. And then it has this, and I don't know the name of this, and don't even bother texting it to me because I'll be gone by the time it gets here. But if you were standing behind my car and I wasn't paying attention and I just tried to run you over, it stops automatically. So it'll come to a stop going backwards, forward. You can't hit a pedestrian. And then I love that it self-drives. And I know what people are thinking, but I'm telling you, it self-drives better than I drive. I mean, it's
crazy.
It stays in the lane. I mean, you know, I could just see me on a road trip, eat my McDonald's with both hands, relaxing while the car drives itself. But I know that kind of stuff's controversial, but I don't think I could live without backup camera, and I am spoiled rotten. I can't live without heads up. It's so nice to change the radio and you're seeing it without taking your eyes off the road.
Yeah, that's huge.
I love it. And then, you know, it shows you what the speed limit is, and then it shows you the speed you're going. And sometimes they're the same. Not often.
My 04 Lexus has leather seats, so that's nice.
It has leather seats, heated steering wheel, which I've grown addicted to. Not that it gets that cold here, but when it does,
when
it's
it
nice
does, though, yeah,
makes a huge difference when your hands aren't cold. So, anyway, I just want to thank Eric, sales manager, Cam Newton, which you can't beat, right? You can actually buy a car. You can tell your friends, I bought it from Cam Newton.
That's cool. That's pretty cool.
Now you're going to notice he's a little shorter and a little lighter than the one you saw on television. But his name literally is Cam Newton. And tell him he smells terrific because I gave him a bottle of cologne. He was so good. But I had three great experiences at Nissan Cool Springs. And the Nissan product, I can tell you, is better than ever. And the buying experience, flawless. So the fleet is done. That's it. Kaput. No more buying. Although now I'm beginning to obsess on golf clubs.
Ooh,
I think I have a spending problem like the government. All right, the Matt Murphy Show is up next. I am free. I will see you tomorrow morning at 9 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.